Well, hello again, everybody. Today I am up here in the cabin, or depending on which way you're looking at it, the spaceship. Okay, so this is my little, well, it will be at some point EMP-proof. It would be resistant right now, but the top and bottom are not grounded together, and there is not a seal, metal seal in between to close the gap completely. It still has a small gap all the way around it, so it's not a complete Faraday cage. But I do have, I put a layer of aluminum tape around, actually 2 layers, then a layer of duct tape to isolate one layer from another, then another layer of aluminum, and then a layer of duct tape on top of that. So, I mean, it took up a little bit of the space inside, but not that much. There's still plenty of room for what I wanted to do in here. Case itself is just the cheap Harbor Freight case, but I have kind of toughened it up to make it EMP resistant. And here is what it looks like on the inside. So what we have here, you turn on the screen right there. Yeah. Then this one is 12-volt port right here. You could use this port to charge the battery that's in here. And this one right here turns on the charger for this phone. And it is just an old phone. And I've got it kind of stuck into a case. You know, it's just a regular old Samsung phone. And I think this may actually be the first year that they actually did this. But this phone has the capability of doing something called DEX. D-E-X. Allows you to have a desktop experience from the phone to the screen. And you can actually use, drag it down, and you can use the phone as a touchpad. And when you move your finger on the touchpad, you can see the little mouse moves. Now what DEX is basically is a desktop environment that utilizes a screen, an external screen, and it's using the computer inside of your cell phone, the processor in the cell phone. And under here we have several things. We'll get into all that here in just a little bit. Okay, first off, let's just go over the keyboard. It's just a Bluetooth keyboard. It pretty much just sits on here. Okay, it is pretty much just like all your apps that's on your Samsung phone. It has to be a Samsung. It will not work with iPhone, and other brands won't do it either. It has to be a Samsung phone. So if you have an old Samsung phone laying around, I'm actually filming this on my good Samsung phone. This one is just an old one that I had. So, you know, it's just one I had laying around. Didn't have to spend a penny on it. So, let's see. Is that it? No. Okay. One thing that I was doing on the Windows computer, which I kind of gave up on because the cell phone will do everything that we need it to, I think. Pretty much. And you can go into the QX and let me maximize it. Okay, so this is the QX offline database that I had shown in the other video on that Windows computer, but it works pretty much the same way on Android. I think it has an app for iPhone too, I'm not sure, but this has all kinds of information. Actually, the phone I'm holding in my hand has more information on it. I was going to transfer the SIM card that's in there into this phone. I just haven't got around to it because this thing is not completely done yet anyway. But actually what I wanted to do, I have a 500 gigabyte hard drive It's an M.2 hard drive, and I can hook it into the USB coming from this dongle on the phone. I actually have under here, there is a USB splitter right there, and I have the receiver for that mouse in there. I'm not using the mouse right now because I'm using that. But anyway, what I want to do is I want to put that 500 gigabyte hard drive in there. Then I can have much more information on here. Now, besides the Kiwix app, and see, I can use my regular cell phone on this too, so I don't have to have this one. I figured I would leave this one in here, load it up with the information that I want, just in case something were to happen. I can have a backup cell phone in here. It doesn't have a good SIM card in it, but it would work for, well, stuff like this. And all of these apps that's on here, you can use on this. It's offline. Let's go to Walmart. Okay, there's Walmart Supercenter. So it has offline maps downloaded into it. You could actually use this for navigation. So you could pull up your map like that. You could sit this in the seat beside of you or whatever, and or you could just use the phone. But the big screen is awfully nice. I'm getting a little older. It's harder for me to see a small screen like that. So having it up on the big screen is a lot better. And the fact that you can just use the phone in this case and use the trackpad like that. And the reason now I know you're probably wondering why I didn't put the keyboard up here and the trackpad on the bottom down here, or mount the cell phone down here. The reason for that, when I have a trackpad right here, I don't like the layout of most laptops. When you have the trackpad right here, you are bumping it all the time, and with this, you're going to get a hit, or you're going to get a touch just by barely touching it. Having this on this side of the keyboard would be aggravating. So I mounted it up here. Also, it just stays in there and it folds down. But alright, so that is what we are using for a computer, and it does work good. Actually, I know what some people, anytime you put a computer up, some people always wonder, well, can you game on it? Okay, well, yes, we can, and I'll show you that we can game on this computer. Yeah. Later. Play. New deal. And of course you get a bunch of ads with it. Okay, so yeah, we can game on it. Yeah, I know, it's just solitaire. But anyway, okay. You can actually play games on it. Okay. Let me put the keyboard away and let me show you what all else that we have. I'll just put it off to the side. Okay, so over here, and unfortunately, in order to get this to straighten up, I had to break it back loose. But I had glued this, and I had glued it straight. And it slipped. And this glue that I used, I would have to break something to get it to move. So I kind of hate that it did that. But, alright, what that is a power inverter. And here is the guts of the power inverter. I took it all apart, or I took the front of it off anyway. Took the meter out of it that goes right under here. And that meter also works as a battery meter for this box to let me know how my battery is doing. And speaking of battery, here is the battery. It's a 16 amp hour, 12.8 volt life pole battery. And so far, I have ran this thing for probably 6 hours or so, typing, and there's no draw on the battery at all that I can see. So yeah, I think it is I'm going to just unplug that phone so I'm not plugging it and unplugging it while I'm moving that around. I also want to take this piece off. Okay, so this whole thing lifts out. The way this is held on, this is metal. I cut that out of metal. And I took some magnets and I screwed it to boards on little pieces of wood that I mounted on the sides. And this is all glued in, of course. All the wires run through this little sheath up to here. And you notice there's a big empty spot here. And none of this is painted yet because there's more going to go here. So this is not done. But, okay, so what we have here, we have your power inverter to run 110 volt power out. And that is going to bother me that it's crooked, but oh well. I got to let it go. Alright. Oh yeah, for the lid, by the way, I have a couple of extra magnets here that I can stack on top of these, because with this recessed down in there, it's not real comfortable to type on. So I made it where you can stack those magnets and it will raise up the front of this where the keyboard is level with the top, and it makes it much more comfortable to type on. But that lid is not hinged or anything. It is just held down by magnets. So it's easily removable to get to all this stuff. Now, what all I have in here, I have for survival situations, you know, and just handy altogether. Now, this is like a seatbelt cutter and glass breaker and all that too. But I mainly wanted it for the flashlight part. And also it has different, you know, dim, bright. It has the red. And also it has the flashing red. Now, that would be good for signaling somebody. So that would work really well. Now, also I have these little radios. I got these from Walmart. I do have a better radio that I will probably just end up putting it in here. It is actually a programmable frequency radio that has all the weather bands, and you can pretty much program anything you want in it. Now, this one I have not went through and really checked up on it, but it says it has weather bands and all that. I don't know how far apart they work or anything. The box said in perfect condition it's supposed to be 16 miles, but you know, if you get a mile out of it, you would be lucky. But this would be handy anyway to keep in touch with somebody else, and being inside the box, it would be protected. Of course, we have the mouse over here, and its little receiver is in here. We have 3 more switches here to turn on these ports. They're off right now. These did have lights in them, and I took it apart and took the LEDs out because I didn't want the constant drain of power for each one of these, which probably wouldn't have been much with this big of a battery, but also I didn't want it all lighting up underneath and all that. So yeah, I just took those out. This is my little adapter that plugs into the cell phone, and it adapts to where you can have an HDMI out, you can have USB, which goes to this hub, and this goes to a, well, it's a little cigarette lighter plug adapter that I took apart, soldered the wires positive and negative onto, and hooked up to this switch. So when I turn that off, it turns off power to this. This is what keeps the phone charged while you're using it. So while you're using your phone as a computer, it's also charging. And there's a fuse back there, 15 amp fuse, to prevent any damage from short circuits. Like I said, I removed the front panel off of this and that, and I glued them in very clumsily. This part right here, it is not fastened in yet. I am going to do the same thing with the top that I did with the bottom. If I can get this out, go ahead and turn everything off so you can see all the switches. All it is just I've got hot ran up to the switches and back out of the switches to their individual things, you know, like the screen going back down to ground here. This one just jumps straight over to here, yeah, right here. So yeah, those are all the wires there. Now I have something for this area right in here, and that is coming later. Now that is going to be for like, basically it's going to be like a power supply or a voltage regulator, an adjustable voltage regulator, and its display, so that I can, for experiments and stuff, or whatever I want to work on, I can power any kind of a device. I'm going to have outputs here, and I'll have a little knob where I can adjust and see the voltage. That way I can adjust the voltage to whatever I want it to be, and I can run power from this battery in any voltage that I want then for any kind of projects. I'm also thinking about maybe in this area, this kind of needs to be a little open because it needs to be able to draw air in for the inverter, which actually may help for cooling the Arduino too. But I'm thinking about putting an Arduino in here and running the connections up and onto the top of that with a plug, so I can unplug it, and that way any type of experiments or anything that I want to do with an Arduino, I could program it and I could have it right in here and use it just like that. But yeah, now like I said, I do not have the seal. This seal is going to have to come out, and I have found a way to actually make a conductive seal, and I'll have to actually loop my aluminum tape on up, actually up to this point. There's only one layer, no, 2 layers that go up to here, so I'm just going to have to tap into one of those and go on across just to the very top of this, and that way it will make contact and then bridge over to this other side. That way the box will be completely sealed. Now right now, if I shut this box and I try to, if I put my good phone in here, which still has service, and I try to call it, I cannot call it while it's inside of this box. I cannot even call it on Wi-Fi, which means it is pretty much a Faraday cage, but it still needs to be connected top and bottom. But anyway, yeah, that is my little homemade, what would you call it? A cyber deck? A Samsung Dex computer, or a survival case, because you have things you can use to survive. Electronics, electronics protection case. I don't know. Y'all give me an idea of what I could name this thing. I think it would be kind of neat to give it a pretty cool name. But, alright, one more thing I want to show you. Okay, I said that you could charge through that port. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, this is just a small amorphic solar panel. I got this at Harbor Freight, actually. And it actually maintains a car battery pretty good. And no more power than this box uses, besides the inverter, of course. If you're pulling a big draw with that, it wouldn't help. But no more power than what this box uses. This right here will charge the battery up. Now, if you're using this, it would still charge. Now, right now, there's no power. It's inside, so there's no power. Cigarette lighter plug from the solar panel. It's coming straight from that solar panel, straight into here. Now, in order to get the power back-fed into the battery, you will have to turn on this. And that now has power, can come from the solar panel in, and that solar panel, basically, it won't overcharge your battery. It has built-in protection, so it's not going to overcharge your battery. You're not going to hurt your battery just leaving this hooked up like this. Now, that will, if left out in the sun, it's got a fairly, well, not real long cord, but it's got a long enough cord you can get it out into the sun and set the case at least in the shade. And you could charge the battery in this case up. Might take a little while, but you can charge the battery up in this case. If you have really good sun out, it probably, if you leave it charged for a day, you'll probably have about a week of operation. Maybe even more if you're just using it for the computer. And very, very light usage on the power inverter. I would say you could get well, I don't know about a week. I would say you can get about 5 or 6 days out of it easy. Alright, so that, I reckon, is about everything. Okay, like I said, there's still more work to do on it. I still have to add my little power supply. I'm going to go ahead and take that loose. I still have to add my little power supply here, my little voltage regulator for experimentation, probably my Arduino here, and I think that will be about it. I'm also going to make a plastic cover to go up and over the battery. I may have it actually come down where I can still use my USB plugs. This is just two-sided tape onto there. I can take it off anytime. But alright, yeah, that is my little survival suitcase thing. Electronic survival suitcase. I don't know what to really call it. It is going to be useful, and with the Arduino added to it, and with the power supply added to it, I think it will be a good little experimentation computer that I can just take with me wherever I go. And if I need to hook up to something, maybe hook up to a car and diagnose what's wrong with it, I can use software that I have to check on a car and see, read the codes out of it and stuff right on this. But anyway, appreciate everybody watching, and I'll see y'all on the next one.